Roxamore Sports Network starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Can you feel that? Tell me, can you feel that? You see it coming? Yeah, let me help you with your vision. They losing their sight here. Time to send the world a message they might hear. Like Meek Mills, I'm making it quite clear. I'm chasing my dreams and fighting my nightmares. I'm going real hard. I'm talking words you understand. I'm talking real bars. I'm going everywhere you know. I'm talking real far. Yeah, it's time to raise a toast to this thing to the Lord the most. As I go from coast to coast, I'm talking north side, I'm talking south side, I'm talking east side, I'm talking west side. I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide. Yeah, it's time to let you know how I spit it when I flow. When I go and light a fuse and I set to let it blow. I'm talking worldwide, I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide. Yeah, time to check my status and the GOAT is what it be. And you know I'm over 30, so my level is a G. And I may be from the hood, but I'm way be on these streets. And my pockets hate a diet, so they always down to eat. Even though they screaming fame, and it's always spelling me. And I'll never hang it up till my mission is complete. And I'm looking at you haters, I suggest you take a seat. Cause it's all fun and games till a killer show his teeth. This is for them cats that be screaming homies. Claiming that you're real, but we know you're phony. Now I'm chilling with my sons, they my one and only. Like the Triller brothers, yeah, we screaming lions only. Step into this den, I welcome all who will dare. Never met a David, tell me whom shall I fear? Gotta rep the nation, black and gold is what I wear. If you look to your left, to your right, I'm everywhere. I'm talking north side, I'm talking south side, I'm talking east side, I'm talking west side. I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide, I'm going worldwide. Yeah, it's time to let you know how I spit it when I flow. When I go and light a fuse and I set to let it blow.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Travis Newton here alongside Karen Hall. We have Game 5 of the evening with Baltimore Poly Technic Institute taking on the Chester Clippers. And this is probably going to be our premier matchup of the night. Both teams with supreme athletic ability, as we will take you straight to the game now. Pulling up the alley-oop from Lewis inside to Brandon Murray in a nice give and go.
Travis, we have some scholarship student athletes that are headed to college that are already signed on the floor, so we'll look for that to happen during this game.
So it will be Chester with the ball after the opening bucket for Baltimore Poly. Definitely sounded like he got some skin there, but the referee's going to say it's all ball. That sails out of bounds. Possession will stick with the Clippers of Chester High School.
Thus far, this is not an up and down, set it up game, Travis. Everybody's running and passing.
Now Chester's going to try a mid-range baseline jumper. Akeem Taylor in and out. And now Poly back on the push. We know they like to run, and they do it here. Pull up, spot up three. Off the mark, and now pushing it way ahead. Great look, full court pass. And once again, just can't finish. Chester getting some great looks early on, but unable to capitalize.
Yeah, that was a good look. It's unfortunate he was unable to pass it down, but action goes the other way.
Brandon Murray off the mark. He was the star of the game last night with Poly putting a beat down on Bishop Walsh High School. Murray had 34 points, which just happened to be more than the total for the Bishop Walsh Spartans. So just a overall dominating performance for Baltimore Poly, one of the top teams in the nation.
Well, what I like thus far, Travis, is both teams have good size, and they got some guards that can handle, push the ball. Both teams are aggressive to the basket.
So nice take there by Carroll Watkins. He's going to be going for the line for the first time this evening, and a foul will be called on Brandon Murray. Nice distribution of academic level here for the Baltimore Poly team. They have three seniors, a sophomore and a freshman. So the veteran leadership alongside some youth talent. As Chester once again unable to hit their shots, missing both free throws. Jump ball sends it back in the direction of Baltimore Poly.
That's just an example of the aggressive level in which both teams are playing at. It's high caliber right now. Love the intensity.
And then the first thing you noticed about Baltimore Poly is obviously their height. Their stars standing at 6'8" and 6'10". Brandon Murray at 6'4". So there's going to be a lot of trees down there in the paint. You're going to have to be strong with their offensive takes. Will Chester.
Well, they all can handle the ball. They may be big, but they all can handle. And the athleticism is apparent right now. You got the bigs that are able to bring it down court and the guards to set it up.
And Lewis showing why he's one of the nation's top prospects there, drilling the foul line jumper. Chester fast on the break, coming back after the score. And they're ice cold from the field right now. Nice job saving it from going out of bounds. And this time, flushing it home on the three-point shot was Zamir Carroll.
Well, Carroll got a good look, uncontested.
Let's see if Poly can answer. They lead by 1, 4-3 in the early goings here in the first quarter. Just 5:14 left in the first, and setting up this time into their offensive set. We like to see them run, but they also do a great job of setting up in their offense and getting some offensive productivity. But that one forced by Brandon Murray, and now once again a push ahead by Chester. A nice find, a foul called, but blocked at the hoop. Probably would have been a three-point play possibility, but Lewis with the savvy play, getting up and rejecting the shot.
But what I liked about that was that the pass was ahead, and you notice there was no dribble to the basket for the youngsters watching our games. That's basic fundamental basketball. You straight in for the layup off the pass.
That's a great point. You don't see it in high school too much, the push-ahead pass. We see these Chester players with their head up right when they get the ball. We've already seen a couple of passes that have been delivered from past the halfway mark of this court. So Poly will trail for the first time in this tournament. Chester with the lead, 5-4. Once again, the Engineers setting up into their offense. Lewis going to get a good look from downtown. Rattles in and out, and now Chester on the break once again. You can tell they're going to want to utilize their speed, and what a take. Number 1, Farrad Burton just sprinting past this Poly team. And you can tell they're a little bit shell-shocked right now by the speed of Chester High School.
Well, the difference is rebounding. You can see that Chester's been all over the glass. No box out by Poly, and they're getting the ball off the glass and pushing it. That's been the difference in the early first quarter.
And it looks like it'll be Raymond English checking in for the Poly Engineers, and it looks like they're going to play a little bit of small ball. They've been involved in a track meet here early on with Chester.
It doesn't look like that'll change. These student athletes, they're good at their craft, and it's a great tournament, great competition for them today, both teams.
Like I mentioned, this is game 5 of 9. Is Lewis going to take his time, pump fake, has it knocked away, but possession will stick with the orange and blue.
So that's unfortunate. That was a great screen by Poly, and we had
Lewis coming right back after having it sent away and gets the easy deuce. So some back and forth action in the early goings. First period, 7-6 lead for Poly, and the defensive pressure really getting to Chester, coming back on the other side, and Brandon Murray a strong two-handed take to the basket.
That was a nice trap set up by Poly. They capitalized off that trap and got 2 points out of it.
Now a foul around the perimeter. This is a proven Baltimore Poly team. They have won 3 straight Maryland 3A championships, going for their 4th this year. And on the season, just 1 loss to basketball powerhouse St. John's out of the nation's capital in Washington, D.C.
So, Travis, what I understand is that Cal Poly in our 42-team tournament is probably either number 1 or number 2 team here in Pittsburgh this weekend. Would you agree to that?
Oh, I definitely would agree with that. As Zamir Carroll buries another one from downtown. But the matchup I would really like to see, and if I could have one word with athletic director Ron Corsi, was next year put Baltimore Poly in a game with Sunrise Christian, because they're both top teams in the nation. It'd be a matchup for the century to see those two play.
Well, it's a great showcase for Pittsburgh this weekend. You got some of the top talent being recruited by some of the nation's finest institutions right here in Pittsburgh. So it looks like we're getting great support from the community and the city.
So after the missed three-point attempt, Chester trailing by 2 to Baltimore Poly. They're going to try and muscle their way into the paint, deflected, out of bounds. Possession sticks with the Clippers.
No, that was great post play. That was great, strong inside move off the dribble.
I'd like to introduce you to the coaches this evening for both teams. For the Poly Parrots, Sam Brand. We had a word with him after the game last night. And then for the Clippers, Keith Taylor Sr. As once again, Poly on the run, a strong take and a nice finish for Raymond English. And Chester, once again, like they're in the 100-meter dash, sprinting the court, and a foul called before the shot. So before Raheem Gilbert could get it up, we're going to get a foul on the floor.
Well, as I mentioned before, it's a shot and the rebound. And then Chester's off and running. Their intent tonight is just to score layups. They've taken some jump shots. There's another layup missed, but a foul called.
So Zamir Carroll, extremely active for this Chester team. He's already hit 2 threes. Now he'll go to the charity stripe for the pair.
So there's a lot of Chester's getting a lot of penetration to the basket, which is allowing them to get to the charity stripe to earn those points from the line. So defensively, Poly, they may need to make some adjustments down low in the post and maybe more guard pressure.
And we got a chance, like I mentioned, to talk with Coach Brand. He's going to give his full effort 100% of the game. We saw him even last night with a 40-point lead, continuing to rag on the refs. He's just one of those coaches. He wants the best for his players. And when I talked with him, he was really disappointed that his school doesn't get the recognition that he thinks they deserve, especially his players, including Carroll's like Brandon Murray and Justin Lewis. He said they deserve to be getting Big Ten offers, and they just haven't yet. And he believes it's because they're a trying to think of the words here, a public school in a real division here where private schools get a lot of the attention in today's high school basketball.
Well, they may be unsigned, but they're getting looks from teams within the Maryland area. They're getting teams looked by Virginia, so they are getting some looks.
Now watch out with Poly on the break, going for the lob over the shoulder in the alley-oop attempt. Lewis just couldn't finish, a little bit too high for him. And now back on the other side, Chester, a nice pump fake and gets the bucket to go. Carroll Watkins with a wise dish.
So that was some basic fundamental basketball. That was a good stop and look at the foul from the foul line by Carroll and a good dump down.
So the score 14-12 with 1:25 remaining in the first quarter. Lewis is going to jack another one, won't get it to drop. Chester coming again on the attack, nearly lost it, and now they do. A 3-on-1 for Poly, met at the rim. Oh, and a hard foul. Hopefully he can get up okay. Raheem Ali hitting the deck hard. Good job of him fighting through it and getting back up for the foul shots.
Now, speaking with Coach Brand earlier, he mentioned that Ali is one of his seniors that if they win another state championship this year, he will have won 4 state championships as a 4-year starter.
His wrist is going to get tired with all those rings.
Hey, one for the thumb. I say that for college, freshman year of college.
It's now something you don't hear in high school all the time. 6'10" coming off the bench, and Adam Walden, 6'10" and just a sophomore. So plenty of potential for this young man now in the backcourt for Poly.
Well, coming to Pittsburgh, you can tell that Coach Burton, he likes the competition. So his guys have been tested.
Another turnover for Chester. That has been their Achilles heel early on. Well, there we go. Poly giving it right back to him with the pass just off the mark.
Well, what we've seen the last 2 possessions by Poly have been turnovers. They're getting good defensive stops, but yet they're not capitalizing because they're turning the ball over.
So a 1-point lead for Chester, and it looks like they're going to try and possibly hold for the last possession here. Shot clock not operating for tonight's game, and we're under the 1-minute mark.
Cross-court passes drive coaches crazy, and Chester just threw another one.
Especially when you're playing against a team with this much length and the
Exactly.
wingspans that are out of this world. The cross-court passes just aren't going to work. It's better to get the man-to-man passes, next man to you, and kind of rotate it. Speed rather than distance is better for passing against these long teams.
And as a point guard out there, you have Burton, who's running the show for Chester. That's when you want to demand the ball back and make sure you get a good look.
Poly coming back on offense. 3-point attempt, no good, off back iron, and a foul on the rebound. So we'll get a baseline inbounds in the backcourt for Chester.
Well, this game down low is not for the faint of heart. You got some bigs that are banging down there, and that's the kind of ball that you want to watch. You know, for the youngsters that are thinking about college, even though we're looking at high school, we are seeing some prospective student athletes who have signed on both of these teams to head on to college.
So going to the hoop strong once again, Zamir Carroll. And now 2 fouls already on the young man that just checked in Adam Walden. So still plenty of time left on the clock for the Poly Parrots. They'll have 7.2 to get it down the court and take a shot.
From one big to another, you take out 20 and you put in Evans for Poly.
And that's got to be a great sight as a coach. You have a 6'8" freshman and then a 6'10" sophomore. They've won 3 straight state championships, and it looks like they have a lot more possibilities in the future years, as the freshmen can't get that one to go as time expires in the first quarter. So as we go to the break, it'll be a 2-point lead for the Chester Clippers. They lead 15-13 as we're going to take a short break here on the Roxamore Sports Network and bring you right back to the live second quarter action. We'll be right back.
Trouble can find anyone. At Frank Walker Law, we take the time to understand your situation and work tirelessly on your behalf. Hard-hitting representation when you need it the most. A real law firm getting real results.
We'd like to welcome you back to the Roxamore Sports Network. Today's game is sponsored by Wilbanks Consulting Group. Is your athlete struggling to see a career path after graduation? If your child lacks direction, career exploration coaching can help. Career experts at the Wilbanks Consulting Group help your athlete identify their strengths beyond sports for a lifetime of success and career satisfaction. Call 1-833-924-9675 today for your free consultation. As we welcome you back to second quarter play here on the Roxamore Sports Network. The follow in the jam with the right hand by Lewis.
You know what? That will get everybody excited on that Poly bench. You know, you want to have a play in your repertoire that will just have your teammates roaring, and that slam dunk just did it for the Baltimore Poly.
And Karen, we see back-to-back baskets here. It's really been a back-and-forth game so far. What do you see that Chester needs to do to limit this Poly offense that has really been thriving in the first quarter?
Yeah, I think defensively, if they can really stop the penetration to the basket, because Poly's been taking one dribble and going to the basket. They really need to work defensively to cut down the lanes.
That shot by Murray, in and out. He's struggling, and his teammate comes up to him and Lewis and tells him, "Keep shooting, man. You gotta make it, or you gotta take them to make them." Is what he's telling him, and we saw Murray drop 34, so we know he is a certified baller on the offensive side.
Yeah, from the way it looks, it doesn't look like anyone's a little gun shy out here. Both teams are pushing it, which is great, but you don't want to get sloppy, right? You want to push it under control, and that's the point guard's job, to get everybody in the action.
So already 8 fouls on this Engineers team will send Chester to the line. Raheem Gilbert with the 1-and-1. Unable to capitalize, and a rebound by Murray, pushing it ahead to Lewis.
So that's the transition you were asking me about. That's the transition where Chester needs to do a better job in defending.
And these may be a high school athlete, but that is a grown man in number 10.
Oh, no question about
going off
that.
of 2 feet off the jump and just jamming it easily with one hand.
He's been watching the college players get it done.
And certainly has a great chance to be a premier college player at any school he goes to with that athletic ability. So now coming back on the offensive possession is Poly. They found their stride here. Oh, and going for the body was Lewis. Draws the foul and will go to the line for a pair.
That is grown man play, Travis. That's grown man. There's nothing high school about that. That was Justin Lewis, and he's already signed and headed to Marquette. So he's playing the way he should be. He should be playing like the college player, no longer the mental thought of a high school player. College is awaiting him.
And we were talking about it the other night. Definitely a player that he should be watching his game, a former Marquette player. The man, the Flash, Dwayne Wade. Obviously, they have a little bit different playing style. He's a little bit bigger in stature, but definitely someone you would want to idolize your game after.
Oh, absolutely. And you can bet at the collegiate level, it becomes a mental. You have to really not only step your game up physically, but mentally, because it's a college, it's a higher level, it's NCAA Division I, and there's a lot of expectations that comes with that.
So let's see if Chester has an answer after the barrage of points by the Poly Parents. They still only lead by 3 after a tightly contested game. Nice give. Now the outside 3 looked good, but just off front iron.
So Coach Burton from Poly, he made an adjustment. They went to a matchup zone, and what they did, they just clogged up the middle. Because if you can remember first quarter, Chester was getting a lot of shots in the paint. And you just seen 2 perimeter shots forced by Chester because of Poly's defense. Love that.
And as you get higher in level, the zone defense really starts to fade away. We see it a lot in high school. We've seen it more than I was expecting here in this tournament. At college, you get teams now and then that do it. Of course, the Syracuse Orange are known for their zone defense. But what's interesting to see is at the NBA game, the zone defense is actually making its appearance back. You're starting to see more and more teams sit back into that zone defense with such the premier scores that we see in the NBA nowadays.
Yeah, what an interesting observation about the highest level, because years ago, it was a violation if you looked like you were in the zone.
Yeah.
And now it is making its way back to the league.
So a little bit of... little bit of a discrepancy here at the scores table. While we have the breakage in play, we'd like to thank you for joining us and remind you to check out Wilson's Night Out. Come to Wilson's Night Out, not just for a night out, but for an experience of Caribbean cuisine. Happy hour Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. with specialty drinks. Looking for that certain room to host parties, meetings, social events, receptions, repast, and more? Check out Wilson's Night Out.
I tell you what, I love that advertisement because it's happy hour here at Woodland Hills High School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And right now, we got some fired up coaches on both ends, which is great because that's really how the teams are playing. They're matching the intensity of their coaches' energy.
And you love to see that in a tournament where the scores, the records don't really mean anything in regards to this tournament. It doesn't count to their regular season schedule as far as playoffs go. So it's good to see that intensity from these teams. They want to show out for their high school and really make a name for themselves with college scouts and coaches around the stadium.
So what you can tell with all these players, like they are high school players, but they are totally thinking about how can I elevate my level to get to the college level. And these players, you can bet they're thinking NCAA Division I.
Certainly, and nowadays more than ever in high school basketball, we're seeing transfer students. We're seeing it in high school where players feel they may have a better chance of getting seen by certain scouts if they go to a high school that's known for its athletics, and we're seeing that more and more every year at the high school level.
Well, I would totally agree, but I always like to mention, there's a formula that goes along with it. It's called academics and athletics.
You're right
so
there.
As these are wonderful, great student athletes that we're watching, the formula is both, because without the academics, it will totally affect that opportunity for athletics.
And there's a reason why student comes before athlete in
Hello.
the phrase.
You said it.
So let's see if Poly can continue their dominance here. They only trail by 2 points, 21-19, with 4:40 left in the first half, and getting a bunny there for 2.
One other thing I've noticed with Poly, they've said that that Lewis has got hot down in the post, so they are feeding him. And they're saying, hey, take us to the promised land going into halftime.
A grown man move, spinning inside by Akeem Taylor, couldn't finish, and a nice lefty layup His last name's English, and he showed a little bit of it there, getting the spin off the glass.
Yeah, Chester's getting beat on transition, defensive transition. That was almost 2 uncontested layups that Poly were able to capitalize on because Chester's not getting back.
And on the other side, this offense has been a little bit stagnant in the recent goings for Chester High School. Let's see if they can really settle into their offense and find a nice open look for one of their scorers.
Well, one reason for that is because they've increased their pressure man-to-man, and they made that slight adjustment a couple possessions ago going zone.
It was also very interesting. We saw Poly go small early after realizing they were going to be in a track meet, but since then the momentum's really slowed down for Chester. Not just the momentum, the speed of their game. They're not running the court as much, and I feel like that's what was really a nice advantage for them in the early parts of this game.
So you really got to recognize change as players out there. And, I don't blame it on the point guard, but as a former point guard, that is your job to recognize the differences and adjustments by the defense and understand your teammates. If your teammates are rushing as a point guard, pull them back out, settle down, and then get it going again. Get your offense started again.
So now checking in for the Poly Parrots for the first time, number 2, Bryce Lindsay, a 6-foot sophomore guard. And Murray's going to go ahead and bring it up, barking out orders as the floor general. Getting his offense set up, a lot of movement without the ball. Lewis going to try and strongman in there again. Now a shot from NBA range and buries it. Coming right off the bench and having his impact is Bryce Lindsay, and that's what you love to see from a young player. Now here comes Poly again, contested at the rim, won't get it to go, but will draw the foul, going to the line for 2.
And you can tell all the fouls are coming inside. They're not shooting. Poly's not shooting perimeter shots. They're taking the ball inside. If there's a shot sheet, you'll see all the balls right around the basket.
And this foul line attempt is brought to you by SOAR. They know the rules of the game, but do they know the rules of life? SOAR Youth Empowerment teaches your teen athlete the rules of life. For more information, visit www.soarcoachingacademy.com or call 609-837-7237. As the big man, Ian Wallace, 6'7" senior, checking in here, getting quality minutes for his team.
Travis, I'm sure you've also noticed that both teams are utilizing their benches.
They are. Both teams have very deep benches, and we even saw it last night from Poly. 1 through 10 had the ability to score at a high level. And from Chester, we haven't seen much of a reliance on their bench because their starters have been playing so well. Just watch out here. Oh, great hustle by the sophomore guard, getting back on defense and stripping it away, what would have been an easy 2 points for Chester.
Now, that was exciting. You had Poly trapping in the corner. Chester gets the ball up and think it's an easy layup, and there's a hustle play. You got to love that. Those are the stats that don't show up on that stat sheet.
So a 6-point lead here for Baltimore Poly, and what has been a quiet second quarter on the offensive side for the Chester Clippers.
So take a look at the offense, as you mentioned. It's slowed down, a little bit more deliberate.
Now trying to push the pace once again is Poly. Wanted a walk, but a nice find down low. Gets it to number 11, Raheem Ali, who gets the easy bucket, and another mistake. Here comes Lewis on the run. The give won't get it back, and another turnover for the Parrots. Coming back inside, Carroll unable to capitalize. So a little bit of sloppy play here as we near the end of the second.
So that may have been a travel, but Poly's been getting 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s, and 1-on-1s. That again, hopefully Chester will make some adjustments on that defensive transition.
Yeah, Poly's doing a great job of finding numbers on the fast break. You can tell they work those 3-on-2 and 2-on-1 drills in their practices every day because they love the lob. And of course, whenever you have that much talent and that much size, you know you're going to get the ball up in the air at some point.
Well, right now the execution is definitely being shown.
Once again, we'd like to remind you to check out SOAR. They know the rules of the game, but do they know the rules of life? SOAR Youth Empowerment teaches your teen athlete the rules of life. For more information, visit www.soarcoachingacademy.com or call 609-837-7237. And that brings me to a point here. We mentioned it's more than just being an athlete, it's being a student athlete. Obviously, some of these players have great chances to make it to the NBA game, especially from these two teams. But for other players that maybe are going to go to a Division II or Division III or even a JUCO school, it's important to realize that you have options outside of the court or the playing field, and opportunities from SOAR to give students information is definitely a great opportunity to grow as not just an athlete but as a person.
Yeah, I love the fact that there's opportunities that already exist for these student athletes outside of their playing field.
So we welcome you back to the Roxamore Sports Network. 2:06 remaining on the clock and an 8-point lead for Baltimore Poly. Their full court pressure defense has really been getting to Chester in the last few possessions, but let's see if Chester can settle down and find an open shot. But as I speak, another turnover is going to give it right back. Going high off the glass on the attempt, but another foul drawn. So a chance for Poly to breathe and go to the stripe for two.
So one thing about a press, when a team presses you, and Poly is an on-the-ball pressing team right now, it forces tempo. So if you're Chester, you want to get the ball over half court to break the press and then create your own pace. Because Poly is totally dictating tempo and causing turnovers. So right now their press is highly effective and resulting in scores.
Yeah, and all the credit to Coach Sam Brand. At first, they were kind of sitting back in their defense and allowing Chester to use the tempo to their favor, but now they meet them at half court, even three-quarter court, and that way they're going to continue to make them go fast, but this time they're going to use their length to really affect those passing lanes.
And maybe cut down the dribbling. You know, dribble will create turnovers every day. You want to pass the ball, get everybody involved in the offense.
I'd like to remind you that coming up here on the Roxamore Sports Network, we have a WPIAL matchup as Kiski School will be taking on Taze Valley. As we are winding down the games here of day 2 of the 2020 MLK Stand Against Violence Showcase. And once again, Chester's finding themselves with some foul troubles here. Back-to-back possessions sending the Poly Parrots to the free throw stripe.
Well, Chester's getting one shot. They probably haven't scored in the last 2 or 3 minutes. And it's been one and done on the offensive end for Chester. And on the other side, Poly is capitalizing either on the field goal or they're going to the foul line like they've been the last 2 minutes.
So Jamal Evans puts that free throw in. Those will be his first points of the day. The Poly Parrots are led by Justin Lewis, the senior star. And now a bit of a break for Chester. They had a 4-on-1 with Lewis sitting back there by himself, and they'll get the easy deuce, and their scoring woes are ended.
Yes.
For now, that is.
Yes. So what Poly doesn't want to do, though, is to get into a one-on-one fest and forget about the team game.
And Lewis was eyeing up that block from the start, chased him down, and got the rejection off the glass. Oh, but a strong take and a nice roll by Raheem Gilbert.
But you know what? Both teams are cleaning the glass, though. You got to love it. They're hitting the glass, they're cleaning it, and they're finishing it.
And the big part is both of these teams are very active. You don't see players standing around the perimeter for certain amounts of time. These are both very good teams at moving without the ball. So as time here in the first half of play is ticking down, another score for Poly. That's tipped out of bounds. And possession will stick with Chester. This Poly team can't believe it. Raheem Ali thought he tipped it off of the Chester player, but with 10.2 ticks remaining, it'll be Chester position.
I love the fact that players never agree with the officials.
Why would you?
Exactly.
So as we count down, we'll see if Chester can get a good look at the hoop as time expires. A nice take there, getting two. And so as the buzzer sounds, Chester, a nice little fight there at the end of the second period. They bring this in within single digits. It's now a 37-28 lead for the Poly Parrots of Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. So before we go, we'd like to introduce you to another sponsor here on the Roxamore Sports Network, Barron & Ernsberger. Do you need a law firm in Pittsburgh? Have you or a member of your family suffered a serious injury? Did an insurance company refuse your claim? You may need help from a proven lawyer who will work for you. Call attorney Dan Ernsberg at 412-391-2515. So once again, as we head to the halftime break, we have a 37-28 lead for the Baltimore Poly Engineers. We're going to go ahead and take a short break and bring you right back to the live action here on the Roxamore Sports Network. We'd like to welcome you back to the Roxamore Sports Network. Travis Newton joined alongside Karen Hall. Before we get started, Karen has an advertisement to read for us here.
Sure, let's listen to Maggie Jason's listing. Looking for a realtor to work hard for you? You found her. Maggie Jason's listings encompass staging, professional photography, information boxes with top-grade promo cards, open houses, and target marketing. To learn more, get a pen about her featured listings so you can write down 412-999-9528. That's Maggie Jason's listing.
So we are back here with the Roxamore Sports Network halftime report. And Karen, Poly came out and dominated on the offensive side. We have two heavyweights throwing haymakers here. What's the best strategy you have for this Chester defense to just slow down the Poly team a little bit?
Okay, so a couple things. One, they need more ball pressure, right? So when you give a good point guard and a good player that can go off the dribble more than an arm's length, that's a ball dribble to the basket. So more ball pressure on the ball. And defensively down low, they need to deny the bigs. They're playing behind the bigs. That's a direct pass entry into the post, and that's a layup or a foul. So they have front to post, don't play behind, and more ball pressure, and stop penetration into the lane.
And it sounds easy, but whenever you're going up the talent that you have at Poly, it can be tougher than it sounds. But then on the offensive side, we saw Chester get off to a really hot start using their speed. They slowed it down a little bit and were forced to a lot of turnovers with the three-quarter court pressure. What's your best advice to them to deal with that pressure while still maintaining a high efficiency on the offensive side?
Yeah, so you pass the ball.
Yeah.
So when you dribble, the defense is standing and all watching. And you know who else is watching? Your teammates, which means there's no ball, there's no cutting. Chester doesn't have any ball cuts. They're not screening anywhere. They're just all standing. So pass and cut, pass, screen away, because they'll get good looks inside, down low. They got a couple great shots at the free throw line, but they need to move the ball.
And last night it was Brandon Murray for Baltimore Poly. That was the start. Tonight, Justin Lewis. What do you like about his game, as it seems he really has some overall talent on that offensive side?
Well, he has a scoring mentality. He understands how to use his size and being big and spread open, right? We talked about the wingspan earlier, and he understands all of his assets on the court, and mainly he can finish.
Yeah, definitely. And you can tell he definitely just feels comfortable in his body. He's a very large human being for being just an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But the way he moves, it moves as if he's smaller than he actually is.
Right.
A lot of agility and, of course, a lot of lift on his jump. So that's it for our halftime report here. So we're going to go ahead and remind you to check out Assure America. Insurance comes with a lot of questions. Assure America has the answers. Assure America can help protect your property, business, vehicles, and home. Be sure with Assure America. Go to assuredamerica.com or call 412-489-5838. So we'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Roxamore Sports Network halftime report. We'll be right back to get started in the second half.
Pardon me, ma'am. My Sound Wireless Delivery, the Line Edition?
We are back and we are live here on the Roxamore Sports Network. Travis Newton alongside Karen Hall. And some news from the women's basketball division for Woodland Hills. Their team continues to dominate. They got an impressive win over Lancaster Mennonite. Right now they are ranked 5th in the state and continue to dominate their opponents, and just a lot of determination for that women's team and a lot of late wins as of lately that have really solidified them as one of the best female teams in the state. So we're just seconds away from the start of the second half here from Woodland Hills High School, the 2020 MLK Stand Up Against Violence Tournament. We're glad to have you here with us on the Roxamore Sports Network and would love to thank you for joining us here throughout the weekend. So it looks like it'll be the same starting 5 for both teams as we're getting ready to go here. Baltimore Polytechnic Institute with a 37-28 lead over Chester High School. Like we mentioned earlier, Baltimore Polytechnic, 3 straight state championships, looking for their 4th in a row this year. And a school that has typically been known for their football dominance, emerging as an elite basketball school across the nation.
Be interesting to see if any of these guys played on the gridiron.
The size of some of them, it wouldn't surprise me, but then again, you really don't see too many 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" players on the football field.
Possible some running backs.
For sure. I'm sure the football coach would love to have every single one of these athletes on the team, and coming out of the halftime break, they're looking for a lob to Brandon Murray, just not quite enough elevation on the alley-oop.
Well, that may have waken up Chester because that was clearly a sleeping defense that was just exhibited by Chester. I'm sure Coach wasn't excited about that.
And an aggressive take by Zamir Carroll. We saw him get off to a hot start in the first half, or in the first quarter, but it really quieted down since then, just 13 points now.
That was a 4-on-2 offensive play by Poly. We talked about what adjustments, and one of them was definitely the defensive transition.
Chester's hit 1 or 2 3-point shots, but they've mainly been getting their points from the paint. A mid-range jumper there, off the mark, back iron, and a strong rebound. Now on the break is Poly. Lewis going to try a 3 from way downtown. Soft touch, but won't get the roll.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the second possession of Chester's offense. That last possession, you had one player with the ball and no one else.
So a bit of a stagnant offensive attack in the later parts of the second quarter for Chester High School. They picked it up a little bit near the end of the half. Let's see if they can get back on that trend, as Carroll won't get it. Oh, and then he missed the bunny right in front of the hoop. That's where you got to use the backboard, not just try and toss it in the cylinder.
And little frustration because Carroll just committed a foul. That was really probably their best offensive possession. They passed the ball, they got the ball to the middle, and they got a great shot. Player committed defensively, just didn't finish the layup.
It's now 2 fouls on Carroll. A host of Chester players have 2 fouls, is trying to float it up with the right hand. Now a kick out 3. Murray, the attempt, won't get it to go. So cold shooting performances for both teams early on here in the second half.
So what you can tell coming out of second half is that adjustments have been made on Poly. That last defensive possession by Chester and the turnover here, there's really no control right now for Chester.
And that's one thing you don't want to do, is let Brandon Murray get in his groove. He gets the bucket and the foul there, and we see on back-to-back possessions just moonball passes by Chester. With this athleticism, those have no chance to be completed.
And someone has to take the lead for Chester. You know, you got your point guard, but as I said earlier, you don't rely on everything. But right now, Chester's throwing the ball over the court. They're not getting back on defense. And if you watch the last possession, that was a 1-on-4 that Chester wasn't ready to defend.
And one thing I'm starting to notice here with this Chester offense is they don't really have a dignified, I'm going to be the top scorer on this team. They certainly have a lot of players that can score the ball, but there's not any one player that stands out as being the leader on this offensive set.
Right, and timeout is being called. I think that's a great timeout by Coach Keith Taylor Sr. because he also, like us, Travis, recognized that his team is out of sorts.
So the score going into the timeout, just a 30-second timeout here, 41-28 for the Poly Parrots. So we're taking a short break here, but just a 30-second timeout, so we'll stay on the air. But like you mentioned, a good timeout here for Chester. They came out of halftime and really had no energy. Well, they had the energy, but it wasn't really going in the right direction for them offensively. And on the other side, the Poly Parrots, they're getting some nice looks, but just haven't been able to finish them on the offensive side.
I think that timeout by Coach Taylor was more of a motivating timeout, not really with not having X and O wise strategically, which was a great timeout because his team was totally discombobulated. Look that word up.
And we know the host team in this tournament, Woodland Hills, they're a very good third-quarter team. Coach Matt Furjanik, in his second stint as the coach, he stopped in the 95 season and now making his way back. But, he's a great leader there at the halftime. His team always comes out ready in the third period. We really haven't seen that for either of these teams, starting out slow and, like you said, a little bit discombobulated.
Yeah. So that just means, we had a turnover by Murray. That means just slow it down. They have to now chase you.
I don't know if this Chester team knows what slow is, though.
Okay.
They've been running back and forth all game. You tell them to slow it down, they might glitch a little bit.
Well, no, slow it down is not in that team's vocabulary. But you do got to be in control at all times.
Let's see if one of these offenses can get one to go in the hoop.
But look at the defense. Again, Chester's defense is laying off for uncontested, basically wide open shots. And that was just a travel, but I'm not blowing the whistle.
Another in-and-out basket there for Bryce Lindsay. Neither team can get one to go. Maybe they can get a little bit of momentum in their heads at the free throw line as we have Raheem Gilbert going to the stripe for the pair.
But for those of us here in the gym and those watching, look at the body language of Chester. They got their heads down. They're not really high-fiving. They're not really in each other's faces to pump each other up. It's a team sport. You got to get people excited again. Get your teammates' head back in the game. And
you would think at this point in the season that fatigue hopefully isn't an issue, but you never know. This team's been running hard all game, maybe a little bit tired, but you wouldn't really expect that coming fresh out of the halftime break.
Yeah, I think that's it. Running is both teams' style. It's just a matter of control and execution.
Let's see if Lewis is going to try and play some bully ball in here. May have got away with a walk, but kicks it out to the corner now. Freshman guard, the big man, showing the range from three.
Yeah, I just love that offensive set. Everyone touched the ball. Everyone looked at the basket. And then they got a great shot from the three-pointer.
While we get a breakage in play here, we'd like to thank the Hill District Federal Credit Union for becoming a sponsor here on the Roxamore Sports Network. The Hill District Federal Credit Union has serviced the community for almost 50 years. Our purpose is to improve the financial health of our members so that we are not just surviving, but thriving. For information on how to become a member, please stop at 2021 Center Avenue, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or give us a call at 412-281-0822.
Well, Travis, while we were taking care of the sponsorship business, again, Poly got it uncontested this time, and one, a layup.
And their lead continues to grow, and we hear some barking back and forth between players and coach for Chester. They may be breaking down a little bit here in the second half, and it looked like Lewis had a chance to contest that, but he just let him have the Olay on the layup attempt.
Well, that was smart. It's uncontested. He's going to the basket. And, again, they got to chase you. They got to put some points on the board. And offensively, the way that Chester is struggling right now, it's not going to happen quickly.
And we see Lewis there with the reverse layup. Nice spin on the ball. Gets the bucket to go. And now we see some back and forth play on the offensive side. We went from going stale for both teams on offense to kind of flourishing on the offensive side. But what Chester needs is some stops on the defensive end. You're down by, 12 points now. It's going to take some stops to claw back into this one.
And stops by Chester, but also don't step out of your personality for Poly. They've been doing great, and everyone touching the ball. They've been getting good looks. Stay within your personality. Don't start playing one-on-one. Continue to play the way that has earned you this lead.
So once again, the Clippers of Chester High School going to the line. Coach Brand stating his case with the official right now. It looked like a clean block to me, but we don't necessarily have the best angle from down here.
Yeah, as a former coach, Travis, I try not to really talk to officials. More so, concentrate on your team. Your team are the players who are traveling and not putting the ball in the basket. We know all called by officials are not good calls.
So coming off the free throw attempts, now just an 11-point lead for the Poly Parrots, and they're going to try and rely on Lewis down here in the paint. He kicks it back out and then is asking for it right back. A size advantage down there in the post, but off the mark shot there.
But let me say this, as Lewis is dominating on Poly's end, you don't want to have those players start to stand because you're trying to milk that player for the 5-10 minutes of a quarter.
And don't get me wrong, I love Lewis in the post, but I'd like to see a little bit of movement from him, not just standing down there on the block waiting for the ball to come to him.
Absolutely.
And a little bit of miscommunication here for Poly, and another foul will send Chester back to the line, and that's how you make your way back into a game when you're down big. Get to the free throw line, stop the clock, get the easy points, and get a little momentum for your offense.
And that is what is happening. But what I did just see, I just saw Chester, I just saw Burton. Like, look, guys, let's go. He's clapping it up out there. That's the leadership out there. That's what I love to see.
And now back within single digits, just an 8-point lead for Baltimore Poly, and they're going to make a little bit of a change here, bringing in the big man, number 3, and Ian Wallace.
Yeah, Wallace is an unsigned senior. Coach Barton talked about he was getting looks from Towson, Loyola, Maryland, Siena, and Kenesha. So he's unsigned senior, 1 of 3 on that Poly team.
And there's no doubt that basketball is in Maryland, in the state of Maryland, is at its best. Of course, the Maryland Terrapins this year, one of the top teams in the country in college ball, and the Big Ten really emerging as a basketball powerhouse when they haven't. They've been more of a football conference for many years.
Right, you got Indiana, you got Michigan State. Tom Izzo does a great job up there. Jawan Howard making the comeback at Michigan. So, a lot of teams are now in conference play.
Yeah.
So this is the exciting time of season for men's and women's college basketball.
And, of course, you mentioned Michigan State, our colleague Craig Thomas, his 50th birthday today.
Ah.
An alumni and past football player for the Spartans.
Yes.
So the score 50-41, a 9-point lead for Baltimore Poly. And Lewis meets him at the backboard and says, get that one out of here. But fighting strong once again, Chester High School. And a lot of fight there by Zamir Carroll. He's been scoreless for a while here in the second half, but gets one there.
Yeah, well, you keep playing because the game is played in spurts, right? You're able to stop some. But what you want to do is develop consistency, right? You miss some, you don't want to stop shooting, but you want to shoot smarter and play harder.
So Chester looking to hand Baltimore Poly their second loss of the season. Their only loss once again to St. John's, a basketball powerhouse in Washington, D.C.
One of the Achilles right now for Chester, first half and second half, has been the free throw line. They're struggling from the line.
It has, and they're getting plenty of opportunities at the line as Lewis just playing grown man basketball, taking it inside and getting the easy bucket.
Right.
Let's see if Chester can respond. They're down 9 points once again, 52-43 with just 1:34 remaining in this third period. A battle for the ball down in the paint. And they're going to give it right back to Poly.
Right. One thing I don't see Chester players is doing is really getting hung up on the officials' calls. That's wonderful because mentally you stay in the game. They're going to do what they do, and you have to make the change.
And we see Lenny Camacho checking into this game for the first time, maybe trying to get a little bit of offensive production here. They're trying to rely, as Camacho now comes out, they're really relying on the inside shots. We haven't seen a three-point attempt for Chester here in about 5 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah,
Let's see if they can get some touch from three-point range.
Yeah, I do like the fact that they slowed down their half-court offense just a bit. Notice I said just a bit as he goes and scores.
And Fareed Burton, he's a energizer bunny on that offensive side. He never stops going, gets to the bucket there, and makes it look easy going to the dish. Kick out to Lewis. See if he'll make a one-on-one move, but he gives it back.
Right, running offense. There's no need. You're still up. Don't lose your lead because you step away from the game plan.
And that is one thing you notice with these really high-level high school teams. You don't see them getting into many offensive sets. I know at high school, in my high school, we probably had 30 plays that we would go to. But these teams, they have high-level athletes that can make plays on their own, so they'll use the high pick and roll. But most of the time, it's going to be isolation basketball.
And that's what we're seeing in this game, which is great strategy because you have players that fit that style. But you don't want to get stagnant because, again, the other 4 players, they start standing. That's when you get yourself into trouble.
And one way that we've seen teams kind of get away from that stagnant offense is called the 3-man weave. Basically just your 3 ball handlers around the perimeter, dribble handoffs. Really gets the defensive feet moving, and it opens up lanes for scorers to kind of catch them in his sleep and kind of cut right through the middle for an open look.
Right, and the fact that the defense has to move with you creates possible open opportunities.
Justin Lewis going up way high for that one. Now coming on the other side, the up and under, and the bucket's good. So Ian Wallace getting his first bucket of the game, and as time ticks down, Chester answering right back, catching Poly off guard after the made bucket. So Poly, with time expiring, they're going to hold it for the last shot. Snaking his way through the offense, and a nice finish with the English by Raheem Ali. And we're going to get a half-court heave by Chester High School. Wouldn't have counted if it went. So before we go here for the start of the 4th period, we'd like to remind you to check out Big Rock and RAC Cleaning, a 5-star cleaning company rated by the people for both residential and commercial cleaning. If you're looking for regular maid service or even a one-time clean, office clean, or even a post-construction clean, look no further. Big Rock and RAC Cleaning is the company for you. To inquire, call 412-203-8213. So with that, we have about 30 seconds before the start of the 4th and final period of play. We're going to go ahead and take it to a quick break here on the Roxamore Sports Network. We'll be right back.
Trouble can find anyone. At Frank Walker Law, we take the time to understand your situation and work tirelessly on your behalf. Hard-hitting representation when you need it the most. A real law firm getting real results.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2020 MLK Stand Up Against Violence Tournament. Travis Newton here with Karen Hall. And Karen, it's been a heavyweight battle throughout. We mentioned the haymakers back and forth earlier. They were late in the 3rd period. Both teams were responding. Both teams were scoring at high efficiencies. It's time to see the defenses step up now. It's really been a back and forth game. What should be the strategy for this Chester defense as Poly has really just been knocking them out with the offensive blows?
Yeah, I think they might want to throw a couple doubles at Lewis. Lewis has been dominating the paint. And if Poly continues that same strategy, Chester's going to need to double up to force him to get rid of the ball offensively.
And doubling for Chester is one of those high-risk, high-reward plays because, you have athletes surrounding this Poly offense. So if you leave one of them open, there's a good chance you're going to have someone that's both smart enough and athletic enough to get him the ball. But sometimes you have to take that risk in order to get some stops.
Yeah, I would imagine that Coach Taylor, he would prefer the 15-foot shot opposed to the basket or the dunk.
Good hustle there by number 5, Josiah Lamoth, getting on the floor and a timeout called by Coach Brand.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We see these plays all the time where there's a tie-up and coaches call timeout. Sometimes I'm thinking, let the ball play because you may need that timeout later on in that quarter.
And you were just talking about Coach Howard at the University of Michigan. Of course, him and the Fab Five, known for that infamous play where they called the timeout when they didn't have it. Caused a lot of drama at Michigan.
Yeah, it caused Chris Webber with notoriety that he didn't really want.
But I'm glad you brought that up. It's great to see Juwan Howard back in the Michigan blue and yellow. He's really been a staple for this team, and they started out hot. They've mellowed out a little bit in the Big Ten, but still a very good team for Juwan Howard.
Well, he's a proven player. He's a proven coach. He was an assistant at the NBA level, and to come back to his alma mater to share what he knows is terrific.
Strong take to the hoop. It bobbles on the rim and gets it to fall. So Josiah Lamathe making his impact known. Those are his first 2 points of the game and a chance to make it 3 here at the line for the old-fashioned three-point play.
So in plays like that, you let it go. Just bail out. You just started the fourth quarter. Let it go. Save that foul for later if you're going to give it, but not on the and one.
And Lamathe unable to convert, and now a foul about 80 feet from the bucket slaps him on the wrist. And we'll see, not in the bonus quite yet for Chester High School.
So the last 2 fouls are not really smart. No foul is smart, but when you're 85 feet from the basket, that is just laziness, as I would say as a coach. So for you listeners, I'm not saying that that's what happens, but it's not very smart.
So coming off the foul, stripped away. No one in contention here, coming fast on the break in the easy lay-in for number 11, Raheem Ali.
So again, look at the dribble though. Look at the dribble. The foul was called, but the last 2 possessions, Gilbert came down on the dribble while his other teammates are standing and watching. So that could be a bailout. I mean, lucky for him, he got the foul, but you want to get your players, teammates in the offense.
And we look at Justin Lewis on the court right now. He's been making his name known. A quiet 24 points, though. We've seen him get a little bit quiet. We've seen him get to the hoop for a couple of slams, which were pretty loud. But I don't feel like he's had 24.
No, it didn't look like 24 because he's playing with himself. He's taking shots you can tell that he normally takes in a regular season game. These shots are not outside of his repertoire.
And we saw last night Brandon Murray was the star of the game. Tonight he only has 6. So it's nice for a team to have that 1-2 punch, to have 2 bona fide stars. And in the NBA game, as a NBA team, you don't really see teams anymore that don't have 2 stars on the court at the same time. We see players teaming up, and it's really become hard to win if you don't have 2 or maybe even 3 stars on the court.
Right, but seeing Poly and 2 different players on 2 different nights taking control, that's a big part of their success because not one player is dominating.
And now Fareed Burton, a foul at half court, really hounding the offensive player there, and you knew the foul was coming after they didn't call the first one, and he continued to get a little bit more chippy. You have to blow the whistle.
Well, you got to keep playing. You play until the whistle. You can't get caught up in the crowd, and you remain composed. But pass the ball. You got some people wide open.
And that's one thing that these athletes will learn at the high school level. It's hard to grasp that concept, but a pass moves a lot faster than a dribble will. But it's always better to pass it ahead rather than dribbling it ahead.
A pass beats a dribble every day.
So Chester, off the missed free throw, pushing the pace once again. They've really had a lack in offensive production here in the fourth quarter as Poly has been pulling away. It's 63-49 right now with just over 6 minutes left in the game.
So now Poly has to control the tempo once again. You know, it's great. That play is great. That's a special play. But you now want to keep scoring and remain composed and settle the pace.
And here comes a 3-on-1 break. Watch out for the lob. Instead, he's going to take it himself. Last night we saw Poly, we called them the Showtime Parrots, resembling the Lakers with the lobs. A little bit more contested game, so they're playing a little bit more conservative than they were in the blowout last night. But it's smart play there. We all want to see the lob and the dunk, but you'll take the easy deuce any day as a head coach.
Right, this is an opportunity now for Poly to think about the next. You got almost 5 minutes left in the game. You're up a bit significant number of points. You keep putting points on the board, but work on your press, work on your three-quarter court, half-court trap. You can now try some different things, get some different lineups in the game, but with the idea to score and to remain committed to the defense.
And that's what I love about these midseason tournaments. It's an opportunity to, one, perfect what you're doing well already and then to work on the things that you haven't been doing well. And even it's a great time for installation. Some of these teams are introducing new presses into their defensive strategy. They're trying to get offensive sets going for certain players and really find ways to incorporate different players into their offense.
Yeah, this is a good time for Poly to do that because you always want to be careful that no one gets injured. I mean, injury happens whenever it's going to happen, but when you're significantly ahead, maybe within the next 2-3 minutes, get some other players in there. I mean, everybody I think on both teams have played. It looked like with all the rotation going on.
Yeah, and that's one great thing about having a team with so much depth. Whenever you get down into these late parts of the game, you can put your substitutes in and really not give up that much.
Right. And for Chester, the game's not over. Play smarter, mix in some full court presses, but in the offensive end, get some people some touches and look for some great shots.
And you're right, the game is not over, but it's going to be soon if they can't get some offensive production going here on this side of the court. And you see number 5, Zamir Carroll, getting a little bit frustrated there. That's 2 really easy shots that he's missed after having such a great first half. Just a little bit frustrated himself because he knows he should be making those.
Yeah, he just has to settle down and just compose himself.
Won't get any easier than that. Carroll Watkins finds himself with the ball right under the hoop and gets the easy deuce to go.
And that's what I said earlier. It's no loss for Chester. Hey, you got 5 minutes to play. Put on a full court press. See if you can get some stops.
Now back-to-back buckets, and maybe a good break here for Carroll. See a couple of free throws go through and get a little bit of a rhythm going for his offensive game.
Yeah, the game is a game of momentum. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you struggle, you're just doing great. But the team that settles in fourth quarter with, their offensive sets, staying out of foul trouble, making free throws and finishing, those are the teams that usually come out successfully.
So Carroll will hit the first of the pair. Makes it a 15-point lead now for the Poly pair. It's 67-52 with 5:10 remaining in the fourth. It's been a slow-moving fourth quarter here. A lot of fouls, 8 fouls for the Poly Parrots and 7 for the Chester Clippers.
Yeah, Poly can't get caught up in Chester's press, right? Just break the press, pass the ball, and run an offense. And then you'll watch the clock tick. But pass the ball, please. Now, set your offense of great recognition by Lewis.
They settle down after breaking the press, and it looks like we're going to get a one-on-one opportunity for Lewis. Blows past the defender and dunks it on him. A nice take there by Lewis, showing that he is the superior athlete in that battle.
Yeah, right now you can't say anything about that one. That's just a grown man play.
And off the missed three-point attempt, it goes out of bounds, tipped off of the orange and blue, so possession will stick with Chester.
And, one thing about Lewis today, he's been consistent in his performance. He stayed within himself, and defensively he hasn't fouled too hard or too many. And then offensively, he's been consistent. He's on the floor for the loose ball.
And that's what you love to see from your stars as we try to get a timeout. Now going on the other side, Brandon Murray showing that he can do it too, rim rocking here at Woodland Hills High School.
Oh, yeah, you got to love. We're going to get into Dunk Fest. We're going to start scoring these dunks, Travis.
Hey, that's okay with me. At this point, it seems like Poly's going to run away with this one here in the fourth period. Let them get up there and show their athleticism.
I'm giving that last one a 9 because Lewis turned the corner. That was a straight 10.
Now a three-point attempt, see if they can do it from deep as well. They cannot. That one falls short.
So if I'm coaching Chester right now, I'm calling a timeout because my team is walking, they're looking, and they're really playing some one-on-one. You have 4 minutes to play. You play the game, you play it hard, and you play it to the end.
Well said. You can definitely see a little bit of letdown on this Chester side, even though they just hit a nice little baseline pull-up jumper. And that's what I love about Coach Brand here for Baltimore Poly. His team has a commanding lead, but he's still working hard for his players, running up and down the court to get the timeout.
It's to the end. You don't slap hands like good guys. It's over. Hey, you need to be running over to that bench. We need to get ourselves back in gear. We got 3 minutes to play this game. Nothing's done until the horn sounds. You got Coach Barton over there. He's fired up. He's not happy with what he sees. Call a timeout, make the change, and let's make it better.
So we'd like to give a little accolades to these players for Baltimore Poly. In the past season, they had 3 players that were all-Metro that returned this season. Raheem Ali, the point guard, and, of course, Justin Lewis and Brandon Murray. We just saw them destroy the iron up at the dish here in this game. They also have Adam Walden, who is a transfer from basketball, really a strong basketball powerhouse, St. Francis, just coming here in his sophomore year. So he's another addition that really rounds up this Baltimore Poly lineup, and he's coming off the bench at 6'10". It's just hard to believe here at the high school level.
I mean, Poly's won 3 state championships, and with what we're seeing last night and tonight, you know, depending on how everything finishes out this season, it could be number 4. But they clearly have a coach who will not allow them to stop playing at a high level.
Yeah, mediocrity is definitely not in the vocabulary of Coach Brand. And that's definitely something to put on your resume. 3 championships in 3 years, looking for their 4th.
And for all you listeners out there, I'm a former coach getting a little excited. So if I'm saying Barton, you know, please understand, I mean Coach Brand.
And what I love to see here as a resident of Maryland, just moved to Pittsburgh, but a lifetime resident of Maryland. Maryland basketball is really dominating here at this 2020 MLK Showcase. We just saw Newtown High School get the emphatic win. Of course, Baltimore Poly representing, and you know, the Maryland team's just getting it done.
Well, Travis, take it easy. We have 2 more days of MLK Tournament to go. So we'll let you enjoy it right now, but take it easy.
So we come back here on this offensive side for Baltimore Poly. 3 minutes and 18 seconds left here in the final quarter of play. And going to the line is number 1, Raymond English.
Yeah, Poly's done a great job from the free throw line today. You talk about percentage, I'm sure they're well over 50% from the free throw line. And with all the layups they've been making, their field goal percentage probably is also high.
And look at that, turning on the Jets and taking it up with the left hand. Fareed Burton, his team may be down, but he's going to give it his all throughout this game.
And that's what happens. That's what you do. But, you know, defensively, step up and take a charge. That's too easy. That's a little point guard coming down the lane. Put him down a couple times, and that'll end that. Another turnover.
Yeah, some life out of this Chester team, which you like to see. The Euro step, the strong take, and it's going to be called a goaltend. Brandon Murray going up way high, but it was coming on its way down.
The game isn't over. You got to play to the end. You got to maintain your intensity. You got to keep scoring. And defensively, you want to pressure without the foul. Chester just got 2 turnovers because they pressure without the foul.
And I'm glad you bring that up because fouls are something in high school that players really don't know how to avoid fouls. They know how to go up and they love the flashy blocks, but 8 times out of 10, the foul's not going to show up on that highlight reel of someone getting a pin block on the backboard. So learning to go straight up with your hands, not bring your body into the defender, that's one thing that high school athletes really need to focus on because they see those blocks on Overtime and on House of Highlights and they think, wow, I'm going to go do that. But 8 times out of 10, high school athletes are going to get called for the foul on
Totally
those.
Totally agree. But I do like what Poly's doing, right? They're slowing it down. They're letting everybody touch the ball, and they're in no hurry. That's how you win the game. You still have to keep scoring because 2 minutes in this game is a long time.
And I will tell you, I like what they're doing. 2 games ago in this tournament, we saw math, civics, and science out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They had a 4-point lead, and the team was running a 2-3 zone, and they just brought it out to the half-court line and held it for about 2 minutes. I understand it's a strategic part of the game, but you never like to see teams just sit out and hold it. And tough foul there, and they're going to get him with an intentional. And he held on a little bit late. Poly player Bryce Lindsay, he's not going to take lightly to that.
Right. So honestly, this is frustration coming out because Watkins is struggling. And the guy tied him up, intentional was called. That was the end of the play. So anything else is really, you've lost composure of yourself.
And we definitely need to split these guys up right now. This is the Stand Up Against Violence tournament. These athletes need to show some class. It's late in the game. This game is basically over with just 1:49 left. Show a little class, separate yourselves from the problem, and let's just play some basketball. They're disrespecting the game at this point.
Right. So stand up against violence, right? And you come to a tournament, but yet you lose your composure, and you're almost on the other side of what we're doing here in Pittsburgh this weekend. That's where coaches come in and say, guys, this is not what we are here for.
Let's just hope these referees can contain this final just under 2 minutes. Definitely don't want to see it escalate in what's been a really good game.
Well, you know, you're the coach. If you know your players And in that situation, perhaps you need to sit the guys
I completely
and then
agree.
check in some guys that just want to finish the game. It's been a great game, Travis.
Yeah. If it was closer and they get aggressive like they did, I understand keeping your players in. But with such a big lead right now at 14 points, just put them on the bench and let them cool down a little bit.
Right, the intentional foul was called. That was it. But when you're frustrated, you're not playing well, your team is down, and the inevitable is facing you, sometimes we lose ourselves.
And you see that a lot. You want to commit a hard foul, but then the big problem that players have is when you get held after the play is over. Players will say, I was trying to keep him from falling down, but if he's on 2 feet and you're holding on to him, you're going to have a little bit of an issue.
Right.
He'll take his flagrant foul penalty shots. He'll get 2 of them, and possession will stick with Poly.
Yeah. So we'll continue to play here. It's going to be they'll finish out this game well.
And it looks like these players for both teams have contained themselves. So hopefully we can get through this one without any issues.
I think these guys are at a level mentally where they're mature enough just to finish it and look forward to their next game.
So Lewis with the ball. He gives it up. Poly, we saw him being a little bit complacent here at the end of the game, but Lewis, he has a message to send. A nice drop step and spin to the left hand.
Well, he's dominated the second half. Let's just call this how it is. They went into the post. He said, I'll get it done. And he just manhandled down low the Chester defense.
And Chester wonders where that's been all game. Raheem Gilbert hitting a nice shot from downtown.
Yeah. So no block out. So again, Lewis gets another 2.
And coach is wanting a kick ball there, but it was incidental, so they're just going to let it go. And Lewis looking for a way up ahead. He wants another highlight dunk. Instead, he's going to take a 3. And
I love the enthusiasm by his teammates. That pumps up your teammate when they recognize that, hey, you are in your zone, you're playing well.
Especially after that skirmish. And watch out, watch out. What score do you give him on that one?
I give him a 10 plus.
And Lewis, you can tell he's a little bit emotional after that skirmish. Maybe cherry picking a little bit after the 3 and the dunk.
Right.
But he's into it. You love to see it. He's raising the roof and giving these fans a show. They paid their money, and he's making it well worth that $5 they spent to get in the game.
Totally agree. Hey, you know what? It's about the competition, the spirit of competition, the wonderful game of basketball. And in the Martin Luther King Tournament on this wonderful weekend, both teams really did come in. They played a great game, and, it's been exciting.
So we're going to go ahead and take it to a short break here on the Roxamore Sports Network. Just 1 minute remaining in the 4th period of play. We'll be right back.
Bad things happen to good people. Accidents, serious injuries, or even death. When they do, families call Frank Walker Law, where we fight to get you the compensation you deserve. Hard-hitting representation when you need it the most. A real law firm getting real results.
To the Roxamore Sports Network, coming off the timeout break. Travis Newton with Karen Hall, and we'd like to thank you for joining us here on day 2 of the MLK Showcase. It's been a great day of games so far. A lot of competition after a couple of blowouts in the first day. And here we see late in this game a 19-point lead now for the Poly Parrots. They've really stretched and extended their lead in the late parts of this 4th quarter.
Yeah, it's been a good game. These teams will go on back to their respective cities at the end on Monday, but this is such talent out on this floor today.
And with just 10 seconds now, it will be the Poly Parrots getting the win 86-67 over the Chester Clippers. Once again, we'd like to thank you all for joining us. We will be right back in just about 10 minutes here on the Roxamore Sports Network for the next game. But first, we're going to get some post-game interviews with the athletes and coaches. So we'll be right back here on the Roxamore Sports Network.
Hi, welcome to Fit for Boxing Club.
Here at Fit for Boxing, you'll find a fast, fun, and effective workout where you can burn up to 1,000 calories. Come try a free class at Fit for Boxing, where beginners are always welcome. It's fun for the whole family, people of all ages. Old or young, it doesn't matter. In addition to our trainer-led workouts, we also offer private lessons, community fundraiser and team building events for local companies and more.
Hi, my name's Mary. I've been a member at Fit for Boxing for a little over a year now. If you need to get a good workout in, come to Fit for Boxing, and Rich and his staff will take care of each and every one of you. Fit for Boxing Club is located in Hampton Township, just outside of the city of Pittsburgh on Williams Lynn Highway. Come learn how to box and have fun. Call Fit for Boxing Club at 412-213-3584 or visit our website at www.fit4boxingclub.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Roxamore Sports Network. Travis Newton here with Justin Lewis from Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. You came out here, a very impressive performance on the offensive side. What was your mindset coming into this game after a pretty easy opponent last night?
After the game last night, we won by like double figures. I just wanted to come out and not get too high-headed. Like, I wanted to come back and do the same thing. I want to keep winning. I don't want to let that win affect what we're doing. I want to keep going.
And I talked to your coach, Coach Brand, last night, and he said that his players don't get enough respect as they should, especially from coaches at the college level. What do you want college coaches and recruits to know about you and your game?
I think the school I'm going to know about me, and they know what I'm trying to do. And as far as like my teammates and stuff, I think I got some underrated seniors on my team. Because we've been doing our thing, we've been winning a lot, and they're not getting the respect that they need.
Justin, thanks for joining us today. Good luck the rest of the season, and hopefully you guys can get that fourth straight state championship.
Welcome back to Roxamore Sports Network. I'm here with Coach Sam Brand, the winning team from Baltimore Poly. Coach Brand, what was your strategy coming into tonight's game?
So last night we had a matchup. We played a much bigger and stronger team, so our guys were able to really speed them up and not allow them to run offense. And we knew that Chester had some really good guards that can get in the paint and give us more trouble off the bounce. So we tried our pressure defense early. They handled it really well. They they moved the ball. They were patient. A lot of hats off to them and respect to them. They handled our pressure better than I would say every team we played all year. So once that happened, we adjusted. We went zone, slowed them down a little bit. We got the lead, and I was really proud of the way we executed and kind of changed our defenses and it helped us with the momentum in the game.
So you talked about execution. You had a gentleman by the name of Justin Lewis down in the post, seemingly dominated the entire game, especially the second half.
So he finished with 35, and on his 24th point, he scored 1,000 for our school. We're really, we love having Justin. We have really enjoyed being a part of his maturation process and just seeing him become, even today, with the way that we started in the past, Justin had tendencies to not keep his energy at the place where it needed to be, and he was just solid throughout, kept his teammates going, motivated us on defense. And I was really proud of the way that he scored his 1,000th point in a dominant performance.
Coach Brand, congratulations to you, your team, and also to Justin on his 1,000th point. Sam Brand, championship coach today. Congratulations. We'll be right back. I'm Karen Hall for Roxamore Sports. Thank you.